Yeah, I honestly have to say, like, big fan.
All right.
From going Comic View and
Long time.
Def Jam, of course.
Yeah, you're talking over 22 years.
Do you remember your first time on stage?
Yeah, I do. I were actually my very first time on stage was in Denver, Colorado. Robert Townsend came on stage. He was doing a movie. He had his arm in a cast, and he was doing a movie. He had on a green shirt and some white pants and sneakers, and he was doing the movie The American Flyers. He was, I guess, a racer in there. It was about cyclists.
It's like 86, 87.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was at the club performing, and I went up and was doing a amateur night, and that was my first time. And then after that, I didn't do comedy again till like around 90 something.
Okay. Yeah, I know you landed a TV special pretty early on.
Yeah, well, yeah, I did, but that didn't go too well. I got kind of early in my days of comedy. I was awarded to be on with the Showtime All Stars. It was I think they had over like 500 auditions. I was only in comedy maybe like 2 or 3 months.
Wow.
And I was the last one to go up. Period. I was in town in LA for a minute at the Laugh Factory. Went up and they said, "Welcome to the Showtime All Stars," and that's when I first met John Panetti, the late John Panetti.
Okay. Yeah,
so yeah. So during that, it was filmed in Caesar's Palace in Lake Tahoe, and they edited me out.
Oh.
I guess my comedy didn't work. But what was so strange was during the Showtime, during the special, I was never in the sequence of doing comedy. They edited me out, but at the end, you could see my socks and my shoes.
But then Def Jam comes along.
And then Def Jam comes along, and that's when Martin, the great Martin Lawrence, was hosting, and by then he was cornering the market. That was his time. He was the funniest thing around at that time. He was cornering the market, and that's where Bernie Mac got his start. And what, of course, what made him funny was,
"I ain't scared of you."
There you go.
I ain't scared of you.
And there you go. And I was at that show.
Wow.
I was at that show, and then when I went up, that's when I brought Cross Colors to light. But yeah, so that's when I was on there with. I mean, so they're the ones that really gave me my really first in.
Right, but when I think of that early '90s comedy boom for black comedians, I mean, you were the man. Like, there's no special you were not on, and you stole the show with the physicality.
Yeah, but along comes with that comes envy. Comes somebody says you're not funny, you're stealing material. A lot comes with that, especially if you not a clicker. I wasn't the click type. I was doing my thing and trying to, I didn't fit the norm. But God was my partner, so I was all right with it.
I hear you. So, Arnez, I know, like, this is primarily a film dedicated to black filmmaking or black film. You've had a few movie credits, but I mean, have you seen any of the films lately? Or
I've seen some of the films, and some of the films that I auditioned for, haven't, gotten the parts, but that's okay. Once again, a lot of times you have to realize certain people get certain films because they belong to a certain band. I've always been that outsider. I grew up around us, but I also grew up in a mix of the Caucasian nation. So I'm in that middle. I was ghetto but educated. I lived in Germany. I'm an army brat.
Okay.
So but it'll happen it'll happen on my terms.
Of course.
It'll be my terms.
Tyler Perry, if you're watching, this man should be like play Medea's cousin or nephew or somebody.
Yeah, it's just.
And you're in Atlanta too, so.
That opportunity will come, whether it's with Tyler, who's doing great things.
Of course.
Or with whomever, Will Packard. Will, you need to be calling me. You already know what's up. So.
But I mean, there's sort of just like there was a comedy boom in the '90s. There's sort of a black film boom in the last
black
couple
film
years.
boom. And I think, believe it or not, we don't talk as much as we used to, but Kevin Hart has got that that market kind of corner. I think he'll start going into his own films too. Certainly got enough money. But you've got your Kevin Hart, you've got Mike Epps, you've got and a lot of people, even though they say he has issues, you've got Cat Williams, who I love. Cat's just going through a period. And a lot of people have asked me to reach out with him because he kind of started, with me. I was kind of like, but when God puts me in that position, then I'll take hold of it.
I hear you. Well, I mean, it's 2016 as we tape this, and the big thing seems to be there's a lot of movies about slavery coming out. The Roots is coming out, Underground, Nat Turner.
Yeah, there's a lot of movies, but you know what? We're better than just movies about slavery.
Okay.
We can make a movie about slavery as a comedy. We can do that. Never seen a movie. Every movie we make, you never see anything about a gay slave. They were around. Just ain't nobody played it. That'd be easy for me to do.
Okay.
And that'd be, all my burlap shorts would be shredded. But they'd be neat. It'd be neat. It'd be shredded.
You get a paint pictures. What's the gay slave's name?
What were the slaves called back then? What were their names? A lot of the African names left when they started giving them names like Todd and what were some of the slaves' names they had?
Well, you got Toby. You got
Jim. You got Jim. Yeah, Jim. Black people, Jim. I mean, Jim Brown. I mean, I don't know.
Buck.
You know what that'd be? My name would be Shabugi. Call me Shabugi.
Shabugi.
Yeah. So every time they say, "Where's that damn Shabugi at?" Hey, master. And so it's hot out here picking all this stuff. It's hot out here. It's some bug. I done stuck myself. I can't believe you wearing that. You getting ready to get beat. You gonna wear that while you getting beat.
Well, what else is going on?
My webs would be all designed. I faint. They hit me one time, I'm a faint. They had to beat me while I'm asleep.
Making fun of slavery here on Reelblack TV.
You got to. I mean, you got to. If you don't laugh about it, we'll cry about it. I mean, so let's cry and laugh at the same time.
Well, now your most recent Netflix special or comedy special is racially motivated.
Yeah.
But you're on stage. You say you really don't like to talk about race?
No, because I don't like racism. I don't like racists. I don't like bigotry. But we have different cultures. But I call it racially motivated because when you talk about cultures, it's usually about different races. But it's more of a culture with me than the race, the skin color itself. Just because they're Japanese and I'm not Japanese, that doesn't mean anything. Their lifestyle is different. We eat our rice with hot sauce. They eat their rice with soy sauce. That's not racist. That's not color gender. That's culture. You understand what I'm saying? That's just culture.
But there's a lot of stuff, like in the last years, like since Obama's been president, it's been more to the forefront, I think, in terms of people being made more aware of.
Well, because we're in a society now that we have to. It's going to be rather Obama helped bring it culturally out, made it okay to be gay and be in junior high, to be gay, to walk down the street and really. It's now more acceptable because the world is wide open. We're free falling now. In a lot of areas, we're free falling. We're too open to a lot of things. So a lot of things just aren't sacred as they used to be. A lot of us, at times, we're forgetting about the Bible and we're reinterpreting the Bible for our own needs. And you can't change God's words. His words are His words. And people try to use this as an excuse to say, well, as the Bible speaks, the Bible was created by man. No, the Bible was not created by man. God gave His word for man to write. So, you know.
Well,
but we're in an open society now, which I'm glad because you have your different cultures that are in. do you call it the United States anymore? Do you just call it the Americas? Do you call it the states? You know, so my opinions are viewed as, I think all of us deserve to make a good life. I think everyone deserves to go as high as the pinnacle of life will allow them to be taken. And when I see anybody that tries to put a certain bound on a person for letting them incline, you know, a lot of these laws weren't, a lot of the laws that are somewhat changing, but not all changing, were made to, it was geared for a certain race to not succeed. It was geared that way. You know, people they say about black people smoking weed. White people were the first ones that started smoking weed. They were used to do that as a social culture when back in the day when they tried to get weed outlaw as a felony. You know, and a lot of the states, they wanted the FBI to be involved. They wanted the State Department. They didn't want the states. They wanted a lot of the states to handle it. But they were saying, no, it's not just a local issue. This is an issue for the FBI to handle. Right. So they turned a lot of those laws into felony laws. But at that time, when they turned it into felony law, mainly white, the white generation, the white younger sector was smoking weed. Right. When we started smoking weed is when they started giving us that jail time. Right. Because now they found a way to enforce a law that geared towards us, to feed us as a black nation, as a minority. So you have to realize that's why cocaine, pure cocaine, you got less time than you did with crack. Cocaine, pure cocaine, you had to have a certain poundage or a certain amount to get that crucial time. Right. Crack, you only had to have an ounce to get 2 years. I think it was 2 years per ounce, if I'm correct. I could be wrong, but I think I'm correct on that. Right. But who was smoking mainly the crack? Crack was being mainly smoked by us. It was being mainly sold by us. Right. It was a cheap drug that they were allowed to make a felony in the charges and to bring us out of
that the government brought to us.
Yeah, that they brought. Well,
we didn't have planes to bring it in.
I wouldn't say the government per se brought it to us,
CIA.
but they knew what was going on. They knew what was going on because the world is ruled by finances. It's ruled by money. If it's money to be made, there's somebody you can buy. So, but then you say the CIA brought it to us. Well, who brought cocaine here? Exactly. But wait a minute. But why didn't we get the same amount of time for cocaine as it for crack cocaine?
Well, they like to criminalize certain people's behavior.
Yeah, and so what they did was they brought the more injustice of a harsher drug. Crack was a very aggressive drug. Crack would make you, and now they're going back to legalizing marijuana. I ain't never known anybody. I could be wrong, but I don't know too many people that want to murder somebody over when they smoke a joint. If anything, they want to eat and lay down.
Right, exactly.
You know, so I mean.
So yeah, I mean things. I think we're at an interesting point in our culture where people are fighting for inclusion. Like everybody wants to have their voice represented, but at the same time, things might be being pulled back. I don't know. Do you talk about politics or this current election in your act right now?
I don't, because I'm tired of a lot of things that are going on with the politic type world right now. I feel right now we're grasping for something, but once again, I think we're in a free fall. We're in a free fall to where this country was generated to run for white men, and white men were the overlords, more or less. White men were more of the slumlords. Let's call them slumlords. They owned the properties. They ran the way they want to. But over time, by them thinking that they were smart, they really weren't smart. As they brought us over here for slaves and to buy and to trade us, what they were doing is, you have to realize, they brought us over here and they thought, well, we make babies, you know, we'll breed babies into slavery. But at some point you have to realize when you start to get too many wolves in the cage gonna break open. And basically, it's too many of us. They can't watch all of us. So those that they couldn't watch all the time, and then you have to realize there were some white people who were compassionate, who weren't bigots, who didn't mind, showing us some things to learn. And where they made that mistake was they allowed us. That's why they tried to keep us from not reading and not writing. But you can't stop what God had already has planned. So when they were thinking that they were smart by bringing us here to work for them and to master over us, they had to realize at some point that was going to stop. Now look at us. We've had the first black president of the United States. And people say, well, he was mixed. Well, where does he act mixed at? If you're black, you're black. If you got a drop of black blood in you, you're mixed. If you got a drop of black heritage in you, you're black.
Right, that was the rule they made up. That was the number one rule.
Yeah. So I'm just being honest of sharing. This is not, even though the majority of this world is still ran by the white minority, it's not culturized like the white minority anymore. It's not as easy like it used to be. Like they used to, as slaves, they used to make us eat pig guts and slop. Right. And we turned it into chitlins, and now it's a delicacy.
Well, you're a big part of that change in the last 20 years or so. They say, like, Obama was elected by the hip-hop generation, the MTV generation.
That's right.
So having black people come in your home, like, not to say you're Fresh Prince, but,
right.
Hip-hop music on MTV and Def Comedy, certainly on HBO, was a big factor in terms of making, I guess, would you say white folks more comfortable or more...
I think with
more understanding?
my type of comedy makes them make them realize what people would say. Okay, your comedy clubs. Most of your comedy clubs is your urban acts that generate the money. That's why we get paid the way we do. Not to say that all clubs want to pay us that, but we demand that. And we demand it because our audience demands it, because without us, you're not going to have the audience that you fill up some of these clubs with. That's just the way it is. We understand that. Right. You may own the club, but you're going to pay me to get me in here. And if you don't want to pay me, that's fine. But that's fine. You can be stubborn, but at some point, you're going to have to break off that stubbornness or either close down or generate how you want to keep your doors open with just all white acts.
Well, hold that thought. I hear a lot of black comedians complain that they're segregated, like they got to work Chocolate Sunday or, Took Me Tuesday or whatever.
You mean in L.A.?
Well, in L.A. and around the country, like, or you're mostly touring comedian, is that what you're saying?
No, I know what they're saying, like, right, because their kind of comedy is viewed as just being urban. My comedy is not just urban, but do they view me as just being urban? They may, but I probably get 20 to 30% a white audience. If I get 50% white audience, they won't call me urban. They'll just call me Arnez J, which I think they're starting to just call me now. Right. Well, not about the urban act.
20 years in the game, that's respect due. So last thing, we lost a genius, a legend very recently that I understand you worked with, Prince, Rogers Nelson.
Yeah, that one still hurts a little bit.
You knew him.
Yeah, yeah, Prince. Wow. Yeah. But he didn't. People always, what everybody talks about? Why didn't he have a will? First of all, he's dead. It's important to have a will if you want to take care of the people you love. But at the same time, people have to understand, maybe he felt his stuff was as eternal. Maybe he didn't feel it was necessary for a will. Maybe he took care of people as he was living. and maybe there was some that said that he was this or that. You have to, like, the worst thing in the world is try to tell somebody what they should do with their money. But what he left us was great memories and passive music to talk about forever.
Amen.
Yeah, he died too young, but nothing surprises me anymore.
Well, what was he like? I mean, I'm just curious. Like, do you have a Prince story?
He was, to me, I got plenty of stories, but yeah, he was quiet. One thing you couldn't do is look Prince in his eyes.
Okay.
Now, I know you're saying what? Prince had the most mesmerizing eyes in the world. You couldn't look him in his eyes. I mean, he could do you as a man. It wouldn't be nothing you could do about it because you're captivated already. It's a done deal. That little bitty man eyeballs. I mean, he was his, and when he spoke, you looked on everywhere. Prince the type of person you wouldn't. He was speaking, you wouldn't like turn your head. You want to grab everything he said. Everything he said, you want to grab it. So he was very intelligent. Where will he be internally? I don't know. Where will he be as that final resting or I don't know. But I do know as a person, I do know that he had a good heart and he did not. If you could call anybody ever non-racist, that's probably one of the most non-racist humans that God has ever made. Nobody ever called him an urban act.
No.
Ever. He's always been Prince.
Good stuff. So, final thoughts, words of advice. I'll give you three choices. So, words of advice for people looking to get into the comedy game, or
just be original. You know, I could have came in here and been joking a lot, and used people say, you're always joking. Sometimes I'm a lot more serious than a lot of people really know.
No, but that's the kind of content that people watching this channel want to see. They want to know who they are.
They have to. My advice to the people in this game: really know to yourself if you want to be in this game, because this game takes sacrifice. It takes sacrifice. It takes due diligence. Okay, don't just think because you hear somebody say something, you can jump on it, make it your own. All of a sudden, you're gonna be a star. Okay, yeah, you may not be a star for that moment, but it'll catch up to you. It'll catch up to you.
Yeah.
So be who you are, and you'll know when to either get out or not get out. But if it's something you want to do, prepare to sacrifice, prepare to have a door shut, because every door is shut, there's always another door being built. It's just got to be if you want to walk into it and open it up.
Okay, so I'll give you the second question. Last good book you read?
Spider-Man. No.
Okay.
Last good book I read was probably the last good book I read was, and I forgot the name of it, but it was about preparing yourself for death, preparing your will and trust. It's probably the last good book I read, and the reason I can't come up with the name was because I just jumped into the book and I just started reading it. There's so much that we don't know that we need to know about will and trust and about life insurance and defined benefits as a whole. As far as black people, these are areas that we run away from, we don't know about. You got to get to know them, because if you don't, you're not going to have any money as you get older.
Right.
Your money will just dissipate. You got to know about taxes. We got to know this stuff.
Right. Yeah, and it's not just the society kind of wants you to live paycheck to paycheck, but understanding how to use money.
Well, it's not. Yeah, and that's a good answer, a good analogy, because it's not how much money you have; it's what you do with the money that you got. Because what you don't want, you want. As far as black people, we have a problem with we want right now. We don't understand about the end. You want money when you stop working. You want money when you want to be able to say, I got this amount of money in the bank. So many of us, when we quit job or get laid off or whatever the case may be, we don't have no money. You don't have no money. I'm about building money for down the road.
Right. And generations. You got
generations. That's how the other cultures have done it for so long. It's a pass down and a knowledge taught. You know, they say put a good book in front of a black man, he won't read it. Well, you know, that's pretty much true. And it's unfortunate.
Deep stuff. And last thing, how's Rodney doing?
Yeah, Ronnie's Ronnie. Ronnie's always gonna be Rodney. He'll never change. He'll always be mean, self-absorbed. You know, mentally unstable, but at the same time confident.
You know, for those who don't know, you got to check out Racially Motivated on Netflix. And if you get a chance, you know, to see this gentleman live, you do not pass up the opportunity, because this is one of the greats. And I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. And,
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Well, I had a great time tonight, and it's really good, refreshing conversation. So
yeah, we had a good time. We had a good time. See all the white people laughing?
You got a lot of white people in here. That's true.
That was a whole bunch. That's a whole bunch. I said they're supposed to be the buyers.
More slave humor. Okay.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
All right. It's comedian Arnez J, and you are watching Reelblack, and I mean that.
White folks love Bill Cosby so much. They had commercials, man, where little white children was riding his back eating tapioca out of his eardrums. Daddy Bill. And so, how do they kill my son and I can't get a commercial?
For me, I feel that what Sidney was allowed to do in the Heat of the Night was the start of blaxploitation.